Yeah, I was gonna say that we'll just edit it like we're editing this out right now.
Hopefully. I'll figure it out. Right. According to Merriam-Webster, social media is defined as forms of electronic communication through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content. It's hard to believe that only a decade ago, social media was growing slowly, and today it's become not only a staple to modern lifestyle, but also reinvented the way we live our lives. As a collective body of young adults who spend nearly every waking moment connected in one way or another, this topic hits home for all of us. Social media's presence in today's world is enormous, but today we'll take one small aspect of social media to dissect. The intent of this forum is to explore how social media use is related to the mental health of the young adult population. Specifically, we'll look at the correlation between social media use and depression and anxiety, factors of each like FOMO, fear of missing out, eating disorders, and obesity. We'll also present possible solutions for the negative effects of social media, like being personally aware, and possible restrictions social media sites put on themselves to lower negative effects.
So social media has been proven to have a positive correlation with depression and several factors linked to depression. And an article on the Forbes website called New Study Links Facebook to Depression, but now we actually understand why. Alice Walton, who has a PhD in biopsychology, says that a new study in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology finds that not only do Facebook and depressive symptoms go hand in hand, but the mediating factor seems to be well-established psychological phenomenon called social comparison. That is, making comparisons often between our most humdrum moments and our friends' highlight reels. These comparisons can also be made to beautiful people who are considered Instagram models, who even themselves admit that they aren't perfect. One recent model who is in the spotlight for such an admittance is Asenia O'Neil. She's posted honest captions back on all of her Instagram photos saying that she would skip meals and even be paid to sell products. She said that even at the age of 15, which is like under the legal age limit, she felt that her body was being sexualized and that the only part of her self-worth was her body. These comparisons made to models like this can lead to poor body image, low self-esteem, and even depression. These all combined can lead to serious mental illnesses like eating disorders, and if this happens, unfortunately, there are even now social media sites who make money off of people who fall into this. Pro-ana websites specifically target people who want to further their unfortunate mental illness with ridiculous weight loss tips, competitions, diets, inspirational photographs, and even the creators of these sites are making money off of these people by selling red bracelets that make a pro-ana community. Tumblr is also a major culprit of promoting these things. All of this has only been made possible by the growing use of internet and social media. The comparisons aren't only adding to mental illnesses like anorexia and bulimia, but to obesity as well, and the mental illnesses that can come along with that. In the book Obesity, Eating Disorders, and the Media by Karen Eli, who interviewed several women with many eating disorder types, one young woman says that her EDNOS began around age 13 when she became aware of her own body comparisons to those models and celebrities in magazines and in social media. This led to her binge eating disorder, which caused her weight to skyrocket. Binge eating disorders are sort of a new up-and-coming disorder that are very linked to obesity, and actually in many third world countries, these aren't a problem because they don't have the same access to media or internet like the US and Europe do, who have actually, these third world countries have an average higher BMI in women, which is actually also preferred. And not that Spain is a third world country, but they did like a study where 18 countries photoshopped the same woman, and a lot of like China and the US had like the skinniest photoshops, while a lot of other countries had like healthier weight of the woman. So in some small island countries, most of the population is actually overweight, but not obese, which is seen as a sign of a wealth and happiness. This larger idea used to be the norm in China and Japan, but as they begin to have greater access to things like the US does, and sort of this Western culture, we've seen a huge rise in Japanese women who are also underweight.
So clearly, comparing yourself to other people on social media, especially to the ones which our society idolizes, like Asina O'Neil, this can lead to negative and damaging outcomes. Some of these possible outcomes include low self-esteem and depression, as was previously stated. However, social comparison is not the only online experience that may potentially cause these destructive health problems. This brings us to the issue of cyberbullying. It is defined on Merriam-Webster as the electronic posting of mean-spirited messages about a person, often done anonymously. Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Yik Yak, and Ask.fm are some of the big electronic databases where cyberbullying transpires. According to the webpage titled Cyberbullying Statistics on enough.org in 2011, 1 million children were harassed, threatened, or subjected to other forms of cyberbullying on Facebook during the past year. The availability of copious social media platforms provides users with a quick, easy, and oftentimes harmful way to communicate with others. People are essentially able to hide behind a screen, giving he or she the confidence to speak their mind, especially if they choose to do so anonymously. Sadly, this lack of normal face-to-face interaction can more effortlessly take out the human element of empathy. This absence of one's usual empathetic behaviors, paired with increased confidence in one's own actions, frequently leads to brutal comments and embarrassing photos posted onto social media. This, in turn, can easily lead to thoughts of low self-worth and potentially depression for the recipients of the bullying. Cyberbullying is not only a very common occurrence, but also a serious one. According to his paper titled Bullying and Cyberbullying, Elon student Richard Donegan wrote in the spring of 2012 that research confirms that both bully victims as well as offenders are emotionally harmed by the act of cyberbullying. In a fact sheet produced by the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, loneliness, humiliation, and insecurity were each reported as further manifestations of the initial emotional responses to the bullying process and can lead to more serious clinical implications such as depression, which can continue to develop into even worse problems in the future. Moreover, think of someone who is already experiencing such tribulations with mental health. One little hurtful act towards he or she may just be what pushes this already struggling person over the edge on social media. Drifting away from depression's relationship to increased social media usage and cyberbullying, another mental health issue presents itself. A term recently crafted in acronymic form, FOMO stands for the fear of missing out. Although the majority of people use this term lightheartedly, it is actually a type of anxiety, which is a moderately severe mental illness. The actual definition of FOMO is described by Google Dictionary to be anxiety that an exciting or interesting event may currently be happening elsewhere, often aroused by posting on a social media website. Individuals who experience this fear of missing out acquire anxiety when they see certain posts on social media. They view the lives of other people to be more fun and fulfilling and feel as if they are majorly missing out. Additionally, one with FOMO may rarely get off their social media accounts solely because they are afraid that they may overlook something important that is taking place. With regard to anxiety in a more general sense, Amelia Strickland, a science major at UCF, wrote in her fall of 2014 thesis titled Exploring the Effects of Social Media Use on the Mental Health of Young Adults, said that a recent research study found that 45% of British adults indicated they feel worried or uncomfortable when they cannot access their email or social networking sites. Evidently, many young adults experience serious anxiety due to social media usage or at times even lack thereof.
So social media certainly seems to have some major drawbacks. For as much harm as it might have on someone though, it can also provide some remarkable positive effects. Social media is merely a tool, and like any tool, when used properly, it can make life much easier. Social media has changed the way we communicate, and the best part is how we can stay in touch with friends and loved ones from anywhere on the planet. It's opened up channels of communication that used to only be a fantasy. Some people might argue that those with high social media usage might experience poor mental health, but correlation doesn't imply causation. Social media should be looked at as merely a form of communication. A different explanation might be that teens suffering from depression might be looking for and find solace in the types of interactions found on social media. In an April 1st article posted in The Atlantic, written by Molly Mirashem, titled "Overcoming an Eating Disorder with Instagram," a Duke student who maintains a recovery account on Instagram said, "I have met some of the people I'd consider my best friends through this account." She says that she's able to have completely open communication with other users and talks about things that she'd otherwise be uncomfortable talking about face to face. It gives her a community of like-minded people who give her positive interactions and help her with her struggles. Instagram also has a built-in notification system for when users search certain keywords. For example, when I searched the term skinny on Instagram yesterday, a content warning message popped up and provided a link to learn more about eating disorders, as seen on the screen. This is a helpful solution implemented by Instagram and can help those who might be suffering from an eating disorder. It can help those people find resources that they need to get help. Social media is a useful tool to spread thoughts, ideas, and cool things found on the internet. Overall, social media is a complicated and ambiguous topic, and it has both positives and negatives. It's important to navigate social media with caution and awareness, and try to have an overall positive experience.
So, on to solutions. How do we provide, solutions to these negative aspects of social media? And what I'm going to go over is education and possible government intervention or intervention from companies or social media themselves. So, to go on with education, the best way to prevent a lot of these ideologies is to educate children at a young age. So, a good thing would be to teach children to eat healthy and to learn about self-image and what is beautiful. Because in Western society, in the United States, we have this ideology of what is beautiful. But as stated before, beauty is different in each country and each culture. So these differences in beauty should be addressed earlier on in education so that children know that beauty is not solely someone who is skinny and looks like quote-unquote model. And going on to eating healthy, children need to know that eating healthy and being aware of advertisements that can possibly, what's the word I'm looking for? Hinder that healthy behavior and how that can detract from their health. And also teaching gardening. For example, in this video, go ahead. And the sound's not working.
If they grow tomatoes, they eat tomatoes. But when none of this is presented to them, if they're not shown how food affects the mind and the body, they blindly eat whatever the hell you put in front of them.
That's good. So, as stated by Ron Finley, this is a TED Talk called A Guerrilla Gardener in South Central LA. And he talks about how, unfortunately, there is no way of attaining any type of healthy foods, and a lot of children are grown up around fast food restaurants and do not learn how to eat properly. And as he was telling the audience, is that once a child grows his own food, he will eat his own food. And that can further health benefits. Now, going on to possible government intervention or incentives. The government could provide incentives for companies, such as modeling companies, to provide incentives for these modeling companies to acquire models of different sizes or possibly healthier models instead of the unrealistic models that unfortunately are shown today in our society. Also, incentives with social media, as was stated before, for social media like Twitter or Instagram to provide awareness about eating disorders or other disorders that can arise from social media and compensating them in a fair manner.
Alright, so in conclusion, we've looked a lot about social media and how it's become avoidable and something that can have major effects, both positively and negatively. Social media has been proven to be connected to depression, eating disorders, anxiety, obesity, and some newer things like internet addiction and FOMO. But it also can create positives. It has information about clinics that can provide help and articles. It's up to each individual to wade through all of this information and be aware on how it's personally affecting them. And by becoming aware of how social media affects our moods and mental health, we can pick and choose kind of what we let ourselves, how much it gets into our brains. By tuning into how words and images affect our emotions and proactively filtering our views, we can reap the positive benefits of a connected world.
Claps.